So for me, in looking at the regio type environments that we are trying to cultivate in our classrooms, we want to create a natural environment where children follow their own interests and are able to play where their interests lie. So we like to provide a multitude of materials, different variety of centers and learning areas for them to be able to explore to their heart's content.
But what happens to a kid when they leave that amazing environment in the Reggio model and have to go into regular school? Somehow there's a disconnect and we lose the play.
I think the problem comes in at when we have the children in the preschool and we have them in the elementary school. You see that disconnect because you know that in the preschool program they're co-constructors of their learning, so they're explaining or actually letting us know as the facilitators of that learning process what it is that they want to learn, and as us teachers in the classroom facilitating that learning to extend and to help them grow as far as their knowledge is concerned. And that helps to promote the creativity of the children in the classroom, so then when they get into the actual K system, the elementary school system, is a lot different, because at that point in time, there's a structured type of learning that takes place there. And so it's more of the teachers telling the children what it is that they need to learn, whereas opposed to in that preschool environment, they are co-constructors of their learning. And so that's the difference. And that's where we definitely have the disconnect. And
I was just going to say, as a high school teacher, I definitely see that because, they say that school kills creativity. And unfortunately, to an extent, that's true because they go from a model like yours, where they're getting to experiment and play and learn naturally based on their experiences, and then they get to a high school class or an art class and maybe the middle school level, and we're asking them to play and create and experiment and be okay with failure and trial and error. And it's been so regimented up to that point that they're afraid to do it then. And figuring out a way to bridge that model between the two, between the start and where they end in school, would be a beautiful thing if we could restructure how we do things.
Welcome back to Artful Pods of Wisdom. This episode is all about rediscovering the power of play and the joy it brings to learning and living. Too often, as adults, we lose the spirit of curiosity and exploration that comes so naturally to children. Yet, it's through play that we learn, grow, and connect. Play invites transformation. It's a space where mistakes spark creativity and joy fuels discovery. In this episode, we'll explore how we can reignite the spirit, both in the arts and in our lives, and how the arts serves as a bridge between learning and living. So let's step into a world of wonder and possibility together. Let's join the conversation.
When you go into a preschool classroom, you see it's like little scientists in the classroom, so to speak. And so you see the children, they are experiencing centers in the classroom. They get to enjoy whatever their interests are at that point in time. And then to be able, and because they are able to experience the different centers, and they're able to be involved in what interests them, you see a lot of joy within that child. You see a lot of happiness because of the simple fact that they're doing something that they enjoy. And the wonderful thing about it is that when they're in those areas, they're able to experiment. They're able to get support from the teaching staff there to even take that learning that's taking place from a maybe a basic level and extend that so that they're learning way beyond what it is that they first wanted to experience. They don't know they don't know exactly what it is that they want to learn, but we as teachers are there to facilitate and to extend the learning that takes place within that learning environment.
That voice and choice in the classroom architects of their own learning.
Yes.
That we are the essence of that. And, you know, through collaboration with the TK programs and hopefully ultimately, you know, the earlier, the lower elementary grades as well. But at this time, we're just collaborating with TK to try to kind of facilitate that developmentally appropriate approach in those classrooms. So that way we're planting the seeds of the graduate profile in the grades above us, and in hopes that it can continue and carry on up throughout the ranks, if you will.
Children are natural architects of their own learning, curious, fearless, and full of wonder. Research from the American Academy of Pediatrics highlights that play-based learning fosters critical creativity, resilience, and problem-solving skills, while also supporting emotional and social development. Yet, as we grow older, we often trade curiosity for conformity and start to fear failure. So, how might we, as educators and artists, create spaces where play and imagination remain central to learning, even as students grow older? At home, this could mean setting up an invention station with everyday materials, allowing kids to build, tinker, and solve open-ended challenges. In the classroom, it might look like integrating role play into lessons, encouraging students to explore historical events or scientific concepts through storytelling and improvisation. You know, play isn't just about fun. It's a framework for discovery and growth. Let's join the conversation again.
Being a Head Start child, and I remember at 4 years old being exposed to a different culture than my own. And so for me, I just remember the whole Cinco de Mayo celebration that we had in preschool, and how wonderful it was to partake in like the dress and the Mexican hat dance, and being able to, you know, do that, and you're just like, so I just remember that. So I'm on stage and I'm doing this dance, and then after we got finished doing our dance, then there was that whole de colores, and so now I'm singing in Spanish. So it was just like, oh, I just love this. And then so I probably that's probably where I got my love for just like culture, singing, dancing, and just being. I just remember that experience was such a happy experience for me. Not only with the singing, the food, the clothes, all of that was something that happened when I was like at 4 years old, but it was something that I just totally took to, and I just really loved the culture. And being here in Santa Ana as what, 50 years later, 50 years later, and totally immersed in the culture and just really loving it and being able to share that with our young ones today.
And that's how you learn the language too, right? Mm-hmm. Through the singing and acquiring that.
I wasn't as creative a child as Charlotte. In fact, I don't consider myself to be incredibly creative now. But as a child, one story I can think of, growing up in North Carolina, we lived in kind of a forested area. And as an only child, with no siblings and not many friends nearby, you know, you have to be really creative and finding ways to play on your own. So I remember, this is actually one of my favorite memories as a kid. And it felt so creative at the time, and it's going to sound silly, but so we had this forested yard, and I would play under the trees, and I got a hold of my mom's broom and took it out under the trees and started sweeping the leaves into this shape of the outline of a house. Okay, and I'm thinking, I'm going to make myself a house. So I did the exterior of the house, and then I went inside and made little leaf outline rooms inside the house, and here's the living room, and here's my bedroom, here's my mom's room, you know, and you know, of course there's a bit, you know, it was just, the design process was so exciting to me that I was the architect of my own learning. You know, I was literally right building my own little house as probably a 5-year-old child, you know, and you follow your own interests and what sparks your excitement and creativity. And I mean, I wanted to show my mom, Mom, come see my new house, and she's like, you took my broom outside. So.
And creativity is our birthright. It's for everyone. So Keely, yeah, just because you're not thinking of it in artistic ways doesn't mean that you're not a creative human. And as you guys were talking, I was just flooded with all the memories of my childhood too, of making Pom Pom Village, like a house where we used to play and making up things, and our bicycles were our horses, and our uh, dancing as a popcorn kernel in the ballet with my sister when we were little, and my sister and I watching the Olympics and the dancers and the skaters, and then trying to twirl her around and lift her up and dancing, right? My grandma's pretty nightgowns that we put on and dance on there. So all the ways that we were so unabashedly joyful, and then something happened where we got stuffed back. Our little genies were out full and bright, and then we came back, stuff ourselves back into conform. So keeping play alive is essential for our survival in this world. So how do we do that?
Reminds me of, there's somebody, and Robin, you probably will know when I tell the story, but you can tell us who it was. But there was somebody that did, that will ask a group of small children, are you an artist? And they'll all raise their hand. And then as you get older, less and less people will raise their hand if you say, are you an artist? Or are you creative? And it comes down to, in our head, yes, we are an artist. We draw, we sing, we dance, we do all those things as a small child. Nobody asked, are you a good artist? And then it comes down to, Sophia and I were having a conversation the other day about what is the qualifier for what is good. And it's when we start trying to qualify all of those things as to what is good, then that's where I feel like we start kind of backing away from, I am creative, I am an artist, I am a singer, because at some point somebody told us, you're not. I remember as a kid, I was probably early child, I was probably preschool and singing in the car with my mom. And she told me that if I wasn't going to sing on key, to not sing. And I don't think I've sang in public since I was probably 4 years old, because somebody told me, especially somebody close to you, when they say you can't, then it's okay, I won't, and I'm not. And that's where it starts to chip away at our idea of what is good and what is creative and where we're willing to take risks.
When we play, we connect, not just to ourselves, but to others. From community dances to childhood games, play creates shared moments of joy that transcend language and culture. In the arts, the spirit of connection comes alive, allowing us to communicate through movement or color and sound. What would happen if we brought this childlike openness to our adult lives, fostering deeper relationships through creativity and collaboration? Take a moment to imagine. Now let's get back to that conversation.
I think it's that balance between the focused attention of what what learning needs to take place, but also allowing for that spontaneous expression in the classroom, right? Or as adults as well. So I mean, singing, drawing, improvising, all of that can reduce stress in adult lives, and boost creativity, strengthen bonds that we have with each other as educators, or also just within adult relationships, right?
I think providing an environment of acceptance to be who you are and self-expression is so important. Because there is no right, there's no wrong. It's just you are able to explore, you are able to express yourself, and without any criticism, and just be who you are. And I think that's one of the great things about in the early childhood education environment, is because we're accepting, we allow children to explore, we allow them to discover, we allow them to be who they are going to be. and it's okay, and we accept that, and and we're there to encourage and to support and to provide all of that. So there's no issue of, oh, that's not right, where that's not the way you color, or what have it's what, how do you see it, how is your expression?
If you stop labeling things, you can start to really see. And one of the challenges that we have when we are acquiring language and then we're putting drawing on there, because most people, their developmental age of drawing, they stopped at age 7, second grade. We sort of killed that. And you can learn to see. What we want to do is want to label, because we go, what's that? And we put a label to it. So I love that whole undefining, so we can redefine and find ourselves, and stop labeling. Because, yeah, whatever age we are, whatever you like, let your own freak flag fly.
Let's wonder for a bit. Why is it that children embrace change and adults resist it? Children learn to crawl, then walk, then run, and not without a couple tumbles here and there. They learn to babble, then words, then stories. The arts teach us that growth requires experimentation and transformation, something children intuitively understand. As adults, how can we reclaim the joy of trying something new, failing, and trying again? And how can this mindset reshape the spaces we create for learning, both in schools and beyond?
When you start giving students the freedom to explore and to access their learning and demonstrate their learning in the way that they find joyful, a switch flips eventually. It takes them a little while to break out of that, no, I have to fit in this box because this is what everybody's told me is good. And when we get rid of the what's good and what's expected and allow them to just be authentically themselves and demonstrate what they like, and it may not be what you as the teacher have in mind and what you thought it was going to turn out as, but when a kid comes to you and goes, I was thinking, what if? And then your answer has to be yes. Yes, try it. See what happens. Well, what if it doesn't work out? What if it doesn't work out? What's the worst that's going to happen? I would always tell my kids, we're making art. We're not curing cancer. Nobody's going to die if you make a mistake. Go try. Just go make the effort and see what happens. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. I give you a new piece of paper. I give you a new, canvas, whatever it is, you start over, and it's okay.
And then you say you did, and you don't look back and say, oh, I wish I would have. I wish I would have spent more time. Yeah. I just think about when my daughter was little and watching her be in kindergarten and her teacher telling me she has siblings that live in the bottom of the ocean, right? Her imagination was so giant. And I see how she's flourished into this adult with a giant imagination still, and how to keep that alive. But what some of the most beautiful things were her friends that she bonded with instantly, because when you're in kindergarten, you just do, and you don't care, and you have such a joy. They didn't even speak the same language, but we got to go to their home. We got to just experience one another's culture. So I guess it's, how do we have our kindergarten or preschool mind on when we meet new people, and be curious and full of wonder and ask them questions, want to learn about others? Because that's what little kids do. Isn't that what you see, Keely and Charlotte?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I think following children's leads of what their interests are, and being able to extend their learning, and then also being able to provide an environment of acceptance, exploration, and creativity, that I see this missing with the other grades, because they're not able to be free to express themselves. This is the way it has to be, and this is what it's going to be, and you have to do it this way, when we have to just kind of follow their leads and see what it is that they would like to focus in on as far as their learning is concerning. So being co-partners in that learning process that happens with children, I think that you'll see a lot more excitement for the older children if you're able to bring that piece of self-expression, exploration, creativity, bringing that back to the classroom. For those children that are older, because they're like, I'm bored. I mean, what are you going to teach me? Let's go out and find it. Go take learning away from the classroom, and that's sometimes what we do is we take learning away from the classroom. Let's go out and explore. If you're interested in science or dance or whatever, let's see what is happening out in this world and bring it back into the classroom to ignite that joy for learning.
Thank you for joining us on this journey into the transformative power of play. Whether it's in the classroom, the art studio, or our daily lives, play reminds us to embrace curiosity, celebrate imperfection, and keep learning as we live and live as we learn. Let's take this spirit into the new year, creating spaces where imagination and connection thrive. Remember, growth is transformation, and transformation starts with play. Until next time, stay curious, stay creative, and let joy lead the way. Thanks for joining the conversation.